man, tomorrow is the big night. Tyson Jones Jr. It's going to be an incredible fight. I've been wanting to watch it and looking forward to it ever since I heard about it. You know, these are icons. I'm 40 now, so, you know, when I was growing up, these guys were absolute icons in the boxing industry. You know, boxing's great still today, but there's so many belts and divisions. It's not like it was in the 80s and 90s. I mean, that was just Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I know some of you guys have played some Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. I mean, it's just, boxing was different then. It was just, I don't know, it was awesome. And you know, I don't know what to expect tomorrow, but I do know, you know, these boys are getting in the ring in their 50s and they're gonna, you know, they're gonna box it out. It's gonna be awesome. So I'm definitely getting that fight. And we're gonna have some friends over, some socially distancing, you know, guidelines in place and COVID rules following and all that mess. Anytime you got a big event like that, it's a perfect time to do some barbecue. When you're choosing barbecue for a group, you know, it's, you know, ribs, you gotta do too many of them to share. I mean, if you got 8, 10 people, that's a lot of ribs to cook. You could do pulled pork. Pulled pork's great, especially for cost. If you're looking for a budget barbecue, you can do a lot of pulled pork, which serves a lot of people. It's usually my go-to for any kind of crowd, but an epic fight needs an epic piece of meat, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a Snake River Farm fatty brisket. Man, it's gonna be awesome. This video specifically is about when to tell when the brisket's done. You know, I get a lot of questions in the comments about, you know, how long did you cook it for? What temperature did you take it up to? So many times I hear that. And when I first started barbecue, that was probably one of my more common questions. Well, you know, how long did you cook? And the answer is, it changes. Every piece of meat is different. Now, there's some guidelines, you know, some general, once it gets above this temperature, you know, different little things that we follow. But I'm gonna try to really hone in on exactly how I tell when my brisket's done, because to be honest with you, I think it's the most important part of cooking a brisket is pulling it at the exact right moment. 8 hours in, and we're gonna go ahead and check temp. Up here in the point, still definitely some resistance. It tells me it's not done, which I expected. I didn't think it was gonna cook that fast. .70 down there. Little bit of resistance down here in the flat. That's almost there, but not there. Yeah, so we're not done. It is time to go ahead and wrap it though. We're gonna do that. We're 10 hours in, and the reason I tell you that is because I kind of get an idea by time, and this comes from experience, about when this brisket's going to be done. This was over 16 pounds of brisket, and minus the fat that I trimmed off. For my experience, I'm guessing that's going to be somewhere around 10 to 13 hours total cook time. The reason it changes is because of the grade of meat, the cow that it came from. There's so many factors, but what I can tell you for sure, every brisket I do is just a little different. And you know, I get so many questions about, well, how long do you cook it? And you know, always based on cooking time, but it's really not about time at all. Time is just, it's just to get you in the window. And you know, so when you're planning a long brisket cook like this, like I started it last night, because I know I'm gonna have people over tonight around, you know, whatever time. And so I started doing the math and figuring, all right, need, you know, 12, 13 hours or so is my window. And because I wanna make sure that it has plenty of time to rest. And that's another thing that we won't go into in this video too much, but you know, you have to make sure that you have lots of time for your brisket to rest. That's probably the second most thing about getting the perfect brisket. But the first is knowing when to pull it off. So let's take a look at where we're at. So you can see here, probe 1 says we're at 189 degrees. Now that's the second, you know, biggest question I get is what temperature do you pull it? This is just a metric to get you in the window, you know, about when this brisket may be ready. And what I can tell you from experience is that they can be ready anywhere from, I've had them ready as low as 195, and I had one go way up to 210. Now those are the extremes, those are the outliers. I'd say generally where you're gonna be pulling the brisket is somewhere around 203, 205 degrees. Now that changes from brisket to brisket. It may be a little less, it may be a little more, but that's the window. And so this is the most important part. And what we're doing here, and this can be tricky when you have it wrapped, because you have to get through the wrapping and then feel how the resistance of the brisket is. And when I say resistance, I mean, does the probe sink through like it's in room temperature butter? Or is it like a cold, hard stick of butter? And so, you know, that's what you're looking for. We're gonna start up here in the point. So once you get through the paper, and foil can be the same way, there's several layers of it. You just wanna get just through it, and you'll know when you hit the meat. Still paper, there we go. I can feel it right here. You can feel that it's tight. And that makes sense. I'm at 177. Still tight. A little looser, but still tight. 185. It's definitely better down here, but it's still And you can feel it when you pull back up. Still have some resistance there. And down in the far point. Now that's close. And that's at about 199. Definitely close. But we're not there yet. You don't want to pull the brisket based on the flat alone. You have to have this medium, this happy balance between the flat and the point. And so, you know, in this case, the flat, and in almost all cases, the flat is going to finish, you know, before the point does. But the point is where most of the meat is. So what we're trying to do is balance drying the flat out versus making sure the point is incredibly tender. We're not there yet, but we're going to keep trying. We're going to let this go for about another hour or so, and we'll come check it again. An hour later, let's go ahead and check it. Same thing, guys. Different holes, but same thing. Checking for that resistance. There's the last of the paper. Getting close. See, the temperature is about 191. That's the point. A little bit of resistance, but not much. I'm gonna be careful about not punching a hole through the bottom of the paper. I don't want all the liquid to escape. That's done. That's done. That's done. We're close. I'd say 15, 20 minutes. Okay, 20 minutes later. We're done with this. Done. It's just like I said, cheesecake or room temperature butter. More of a spread rather than a stick, but you get the point there. Close right there. And so here's the big question, right? We have to balance the point versus the flat. We don't want to dry the flat out, but we want this point to be nice and tender. It's so tender. It's too, that's just fall. It almost fall in there by itself. If it wasn't for the paper, it would fall through there by itself if it was just the meat. We're at about 202. I think that's it, guys. Again, don't puncture the paper underneath. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Let's call it a day. We're gonna go ahead and pull this. We're gonna let it rest for about 3 hours in the oven. Oven off, door closed, just like that. I've been in your waters. It's time. It's time to see if I pulled it off at the exact right time. I can tell you from cutting it, it passed the bend test. You saw me holding it up. It just bent right over my finger. And that tells me that it's incredibly tender. And you know, the more you do this, the more you can tell. But the problem is, you have to make that judgment call. And when is that? And if you're off 10, 20 minutes, most of the time, one way or another, it's not gonna be a problem. It's when you start getting off by, you know, a half an hour or more that, you know, you're definitely gonna run into drying it out, possibly, especially the flat. Or, you know, if you're the other way, then you're not gonna have that point render down enough that it's gonna be, you know, really good. So I'm pretty positive I nailed this one. I'm gonna take both a piece of the point and the flat. Let's see how we do. And again, I mean, it's just breaking right apart. I mean, it doesn't get any more tender than that. Oh, man. Woohoo! Man, smokiness, the pepper, beautiful amount of salt, beautiful smoke ring. Man, that's good. That might be the best flat I've ever cooked. Oh, man. And now the point. Really tender. Ooh. That's good stuff. That's real good stuff. Man, I love brisket. Now listen, I'm not saying this is the only way to tell when your brisket's done. I want to hear from you. What kind of ways do you use to tell whether your brisket's done? Do you just go on time and wait? Do you go on, you know, the internal temperature? Do you use like I do? Do you do a combination of all of them or a combination of one or two of them? What do you think's the best way to tell when your brisket's done? What have you had the most success with? Let us know down in the comments below to help everyone out. I really appreciate you guys sticking around to watch the whole video. I hope you got something out of this video, and hopefully you'll be able to put out some better briskets now that you know a lot better about when to pull them off the smoker. You guys have an awesome week. I'll see you on the next video.